Welcome all to the Men of F.E.A.S.T. We're a group of men whose goal is to activate, educate, and motivate men in caring for themselves and becoming more supportive and effective as caregivers, team members, and partners in the ongoing treatment of eating disorders. This is a skill building and support group for men whose lives are impacted by eating disorders, either their loved ones or their own. Everyone's welcome, and we're looking forward to seeing you in future sessions. The following brief skill introduction, entitled Distress Tolerance, was recorded at our most recent meeting. Why is distress tolerance skill building imperative for caregivers, and in this context, for men specifically? Well, having an understanding of and practicing distress tolerance helps men enter into, support progress throughout, and survive a crisis in a recovery-minded manner. It helps men steer clear of impulsive reactions in response to challenging situations like eating disorder recovery work and affiliated support, showing men an effective path toward metaphorically stepping back from a stressful situation while all the time very much leaning into the necessary work of tolerating rather than suppressing distress. And it helps men accept, now I didn't say approve of, the reality of this challenging situation, rather than fighting against reality. This pivot, in turn, leads towards more effective problem solving. As men and as caregivers, we need to focus on understanding that the main thing is keeping the main thing the main thing. Now, there's more on this in the following brief skill introduction. Good day all, and thank you for joining us on the Men of F.E.A.S.T. Today's topic is distress tolerance, and we're going to talk a little bit about acquiring and utilizing survival skills to endure and promote recovery on this eating disorder journey. At this time and in this challenge, you have to learn to tolerate the distress of seeing your loved one in physical discomfort and emotional pain. Why? When your instinct is to remove distress when you see it? Well, first of all, neither you nor the treatment are the cause of the distress. The eating disorder is. So, removing distress for your loved one might look something like telling them, you don't need to finish your dinner. You're doing fine, and all this crying and screaming, we need it to end for tonight. Go ahead and get up and go watch TV. So, what happens here is the distress is brushed under the rug. It's suppressed rather than tolerated, and the eating disorder scores a big win. It's strengthened, and your loved one loses some traction on their road to recovery. Avoiding or suppressing emotions like anxiety makes them grow. Let's say you feel some heat or pain or cold, physical sensations. You work to get away from these unpleasant feelings. Unfortunately, when you apply that same strategy to emotions, it doesn't work. Avoidance makes intolerable emotions worse. So, tolerating the distress means weathering the crisis, continuing the meal, supporting a win for your loved one on the recovery path, showing them you can and they can tolerate distress without it either breaking them or breaking you, and showing them that these emotions will pass and they can learn how to cope in a skillful manner. So let's take a look at the main thing is keeping the main thing the main thing. What does that mean? What is the main thing? The main thing is recovery. Everything that distress brings into your family and into your household, let's call it emotional dysregulation, physical discomfort, arguments, miscommunications, misunderstandings, tendency towards escapism or addictions, or desires just to keep the peace. They all lead your loved one and your family away from the main thing, which is recovery. When you're having an argument at the dinner table, it's somewhat based in logic with your loved one who's suffering, that's taking away from the main thing, finishing the meal on the path to recovery. So, what's a goal? We like to talk about goals. Men like to fix things, or many men do. What we want to do here is survive a crisis without making it worse. Okay. We want to refrain from impulsive actions and our own intense emotions, which definitely interfere with efforts to establish desired changes. We don't look for and remove causes of distress, though, because let's face it, the food is likely one of the main causes of distress, and you're not going to remove that. What's another goal? Accept reality when you can't change it, yet it's not what you want it to be. Our loved ones are their emotions. We have to look at it like the emotions are like weather. We observe the emotions, but we don't control them, just like we don't control the weather. And we know the emotions are going to pass, just like the weather. You're not approving of the current reality, you're just accepting that it is. How do you do this? Let's take a look at a couple of the distress tolerance options that are available to men. There's many, but let's take a look at a couple of them. The stop skill. When there's a situation that is inflammatory, eating disorder thoughts are being expressed or behaviors are being exhibited in your household. STOP is an acronym. The S stands for stop, don't react. The T, take a step back, whether that's a metaphorical step or an actual physical step back or just a step mentally. Take a step back and detach from the situation. The O is for observe. Why? Because you want to gather more information about what's occurring in front of you and determine what's really going on. When you've done that, you can do the last letter in the acronym, the P, which is proceed mindfully after evaluating the most effective options and what the goal is. The goal is recovery. Let's take a look at another distress tolerance skill, radical acceptance. You don't have to fight the current reality. You may not approve of that reality, but you don't have to fight against it. Okay? You do have to accept that it is reality at this moment. And then, after you've accepted that, then you can do what many men do, which is problem solve. Learning to accept the problems that you don't like, don't understand, and can't immediately fix will lead to less anger, anxiety, and frustration when you're dealing with them.